The first rays of the California morning crept over the hills surrounding Camp Pendleton, painting the endless rows of barracks and training grounds in soft, golden light. The base was already alive. Boots pounded against asphalt. Cadences echoed across the parade field. Rifle bolts snapped shut. Drill instructors barked commands that could be heard from one end of the compound to the other. For the Marines stationed there, another day meant another test of strength. Among them stood one woman whose reputation seemed almost mythical, Captain Diana Holay. She towered over nearly every Marine on the base, standing over 6 feet tall with broad shoulders sculpted by years of relentless training. Every movement reflected confidence earned through countless hours in the gym, on obstacle courses, and inside combat training halls. She wasn't famous because she was a woman. She was famous because she defeated nearly everyone who stepped into the ring with her. Male instructors avoided sparring with her unless ordered. New recruits whispered stories about her impossible endurance. Some even claimed she could bench press 2 Marines at once. No one questioned her dominance, not anymore. Inside the main combat gym, dozens of Marines formed a circle around a sparring mat. 2 instructors exchanged powerful punches while Captain Holay watched silently with crossed arms. One fighter landed a heavy hook. The other crashed onto the padded floor. Captain Holay sighed. Again. The 2 men stood, exhausted. One shook his head. "We've been going for 20 minutes. She wasn't impressed. "If you get tired after 20 minutes, you'll get killed after 20 seconds. Silence followed. No one argued. One young corporal whispered to his friend, "She scares everyone." His friend nodded. "Even the colonel lets her run these sessions." At that exact moment, the gym doors slowly opened. Nobody paid attention. An average-sized Asian man stepped inside wearing a plain white t-shirt, black athletic pants, and simple training shoes. No military decorations, no security escort, no dramatic entrance. He carried nothing except a small sports bag. Several Marines looked at him before immediately returning to their training. One private frowned. "Who's that?" Another shrugged. "Probably some civilian." Captain Holay noticed him only after finishing her instructions. She looked him up and down. He looked small, very small compared to everyone else in the room. She walked toward him confidently. The surrounding Marines quietly stepped aside. Her shadow almost completely covered him. "You lost?" The man smiled politely. "I'm looking for Colonel Harris." Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "And who are you?" "My name is Bruce." She waited. Nothing else came. "No rank?" "No." "No unit?" "No." One of the instructors laughed. Captain Holay folded her muscular arms. "So, you're just Bruce?" He nodded. "That's right." A few Marines chuckled. Captain Holay couldn't help smiling. "This is a military base." "I know. We don't usually invite civilians into combat training." Bruce remained calm. "I was invited." "By whom?" "Colonel Harris." She looked toward another instructor. "Did the colonel say anything about a visitor?" He shook his head. "No, ma'am." Captain Holay turned back. "You might have the wrong building." Bruce reached into his bag and quietly handed her an envelope. She opened it. It carried the colonel's signature. Her expression changed slightly. The invitation was real. Before she could respond, one of the younger Marines whispered loudly enough for everyone to hear, "That's the guy?" Another laughed. "I thought they said a martial arts expert was coming." Several others joined in. Captain Holay looked back at Bruce. "You don't look like much of an expert." Bruce simply smiled. "Looks can be misleading." She smirked. I've heard that before. Then she slowly stepped closer until only inches separated them. The room grew quiet. She stared directly into his eyes. You know what I see? Bruce waited patiently. I see someone who weighs half as much as me. Another Marine laughed. I've got 20 pounds on him. Captain Holay continued. I've trained recruits bigger than you. Bruce answered softly. I'm sure you have. She circled around him once. No fear, no tension, no defensive posture. He stood as if they were discussing the weather. That irritated her. Most visitors became nervous around her. This man didn't. She reached out, slowly, deliberately, and placed her hand gently on top of Bruce Lee's head. Several Marines burst into laughter. There, she smiled proudly. Now everyone can see how short you are. The laughter spread across the gym. Someone clapped. Another Marine shouted, Maybe give him a ladder. Even instructors smiled. Bruce didn't move, didn't remove her hand, didn't show anger. He simply looked into her eyes. When she finally removed her hand, she expected embarrassment. Instead, he smiled, a genuine smile. You have strong shoulders. The unexpected compliment confused her. What? You've worked very hard. She frowned. You making fun of me? No. I respect discipline. She crossed her arms again. You don't seem offended. Bruce looked around the gym. Should I be? That answer made several Marines stop smiling. Something about his calmness felt different. Captain Holay refused to admit it. She pointed toward the sparring mat. So tell me, Bruce, what kind of martial arts do you teach? I study movement, she laughed. Movement? Yes. We study combat. So do I. She looked unconvinced. Movement doesn't stop punches. Bruce answered quietly. It can. The gym became silent again. Captain Holay took one slow step forward. You think you could stop mine? Bruce answered honestly. I'd rather not test it. The Marines immediately interpreted that as fear. Laughter exploded again. I knew it. He's scared. Smart man. Captain Holay smiled confidently. I appreciate honesty. Bruce shook his head gently. That's not why. She narrowed her eyes. Then why? I don't enjoy proving people wrong. That sentence erased every smile in the room. One instructor whispered, Did he just challenge her? Another nodded slowly. I think he did. Before Captain Holay could respond, the gym doors opened once again. Colonel Harris entered. Every Marine immediately stood at attention. The colonel looked across the room. His eyes landed on Bruce. A warm smile appeared. There you are. Captain Holay blinked. The colonel walked directly toward the small civilian. Then, to everyone's surprise, he extended both hands respectfully. Mr. Lee. Bruce shook his hand. It's good to see you again. Several Marines exchanged confused looks. Captain Holay looked from Bruce to the colonel. You know him? Colonel Harris almost laughed. Know him? He turned toward everyone. I personally invited him. The room became completely silent. Captain Holay asked carefully, This is the instructor? Yes. Nobody spoke. The colonel looked around. I assume introductions went well. No one answered. He noticed the unusual expressions immediately. What happened? One nervous corporal scratched the back of his neck. Nothing, sir. Bruce smiled gently. We were simply talking. Colonel Harris looked relieved. Excellent. Then he addressed everyone. Listen carefully. His voice echoed through the massive gym. The man standing before you has trained fighters across America. He studies efficiency unlike anyone I've ever met. I expect every Marine in this building to learn something today. The room remained silent. Captain Holay glanced once more at Bruce. Now she looked less amused and more curious. But curiosity quickly gave way to pride. She wasn't convinced. Not yet. If this quiet civilian truly deserved such respect, then he would have to earn it, with action, not words. She stepped onto the center mat, removed her watch, set it carefully on a nearby bench, then looked directly at Bruce Lee. Mr. Lee, a faint smile appeared. Would you honor us with a demonstration? Every Marine in the gym immediately understood what she really meant. It wasn't an invitation. It was a challenge. Bruce quietly placed his sports bag on the floor. He slowly walked toward the mat. His footsteps made almost no sound. The Marines formed a perfect circle around them. No one laughed anymore. The atmosphere had completely changed. Something important was about to begin. The silence inside the training hall felt heavier than the humid California air. Nearly 100 Marines stood shoulder to shoulder around the sparring mat, their eyes fixed on the unlikely pair standing only a few feet apart. Captain Diana Holay looked every bit the unstoppable warrior the base admired. Her powerful arms rested loosely at her sides, her shoulders relaxed. But everyone who knew her recognized the signs. She was preparing for combat. Across from her stood Bruce Lee. No fighting stance, no clenched fists, no intimidating expression, only complete calm. Colonel Harris stepped onto the edge of the mat. This is a demonstration. He paused. Nothing more. His eyes shifted toward Diana. No injuries. She answered confidently, Understood, sir. Then she looked at Bruce. I'll take it easy. Several Marines laughed quietly. Bruce only smiled. I appreciate your concern. That answer made Diana grin. I don't think you understand. She slowly rotated her shoulders. When I move at full speed, most people don't stay standing. Bruce nodded politely. Then today will be educational. Another wave of whispers swept across the room. One corporal leaned toward his friend. He's either fearless or completely insane. The whistle blew. For nearly 5 seconds, neither fighter moved. Bruce stood naturally, his breathing barely visible, his eyes focused, not on Diana's fists, but on her shoulders, hips, and feet. He watched her balance. He watched her rhythm, every tiny shift in weight, every breath. Diana mistook his stillness for hesitation. So you're waiting, Bruce answered quietly. I'm observing. She smirked. You won't learn much. We'll see. Without warning, she exploded forward. Her first jab shot toward Bruce's face with astonishing speed. Gasps erupted from the Marines. Bruce's head tilted barely an inch. The punch sliced through empty air. Before Diana could recover, her right cross followed. Again, Bruce moved only enough to let the glove pass. No wasted motion, no dramatic dodge. It looked effortless. The Marines blinked. One whispered, Did he even move? Another answered, I don't think so. Diana's confidence remained intact. She launched a combination: left, right, hook, elbow, front kick. Every strike carried years of military training and raw athletic power. Yet Bruce continued drifting through the attacks like water flowing around rocks. His feet barely left the mat. Every movement was measured, every angle perfect. No panic, no rushing, only timing. The spectators became quieter with each passing second. The sound of Diana's breathing grew louder. She stopped, stepped back, studied him. For the first time, her smile disappeared. "You've done this before," Bruce nodded. "A few times." She inhaled deeply. "No more holding back." The Marines recognized that sentence. Whenever Captain Holay said those words, someone usually ended up on the floor. She lowered her center of gravity. Bruce noticed immediately. She's changing strategy. Instead of punches, she charged. Her size suddenly became terrifying. Like a linebacker sprinting across a football field, she intended to overwhelm him with sheer mass. The Marines expected Bruce to retreat. He didn't. He waited. 1 step, 2 steps, 3. At the very last instant, Bruce pivoted, not backward, sideways. Diana rushed past him. Her momentum carried her several feet beyond her target. She barely managed to stop herself. The room gasped. Bruce still hadn't thrown a single strike. Colonel Harris folded his arms. A faint smile crossed his face. "He hasn't attacked once." One instructor whispered, "He's making her fight herself." Diana turned. This time frustration burned in her eyes. "Stand still," Bruce answered calmly. "I am." Another ripple of nervous laughter spread across the room. She attacked again. This time, she mixed boxing combinations with military close-quarter techniques. Palm strikes, hammer fists, knees, low kicks. Everything flowed together in relentless succession. Bruce slipped every attack, sometimes by inches, sometimes by less. His shirt never even wrinkled from contact. One Marine rubbed his eyes. "I swear she's missing by a hair." Another quietly replied, "No, he's making her miss." The realization spread through the room. Bruce wasn't escaping. He was controlling distance. Every attack happened exactly where he wanted it. Diana finally trapped him near the edge of the mat. "There," she smiled. "Now let's see where you run." Bruce glanced behind him. No space. The Marines leaned forward. Finally. He had nowhere to go. Diana fired a devastating right hook. Instead of retreating, Bruce stepped toward her. The movement happened so quickly almost nobody saw it. He entered inside the punch. His left forearm gently redirected her arm. His shoulder brushed against hers. His right hand lightly touched her elbow. Nothing looked powerful. Nothing looked violent. Yet, somehow, Diana lost her balance. Her own momentum twisted against her. She stumbled 3 full steps before catching herself. A stunned silence filled the gym. Bruce still hadn't struck her. Captain Holay stared at him. "What did you do?" Bruce answered softly. "You pushed yourself." "I barely helped." She looked down at her own feet. She replayed the movement in her mind. She couldn't understand it. The angle, the timing, the leverage, none of it made sense. Her pride refused to accept it. She charged again, faster, harder. Now every punch carried genuine determination. Bruce finally raised his hands, not to attack, only to intercept, tap, redirect, guide, touch. Every contact lasted less than a heartbeat. No force, only precision. The spectators could hardly follow the exchange anymore. To them, it looked as though Diana was fighting invisible currents. Every powerful attack drifted away from its target. Every step she took seemed to create another opening. Sweat rolled down her face. Her breathing grew heavier. Bruce's breathing never changed. One young Marine whispered, "How is he not tired?" An older sergeant quietly answered, "Because he's making efficiency do the work." Diana suddenly changed tactics. She stopped attacking. She circled slowly. "So that's your game." Bruce remained silent. "You wait." He nodded. "You redirect." Another nod. "You never meet strength with strength." Bruce smiled. "Now you're beginning to see." She wasn't listening anymore. She had noticed something. Bruce favored his left side slightly whenever she circled clockwise. Maybe, just maybe, there was an opening. She feinted high. Bruce reacted exactly as expected. Instantly she dropped low and drove forward for a powerful body tackle. The Marines shouted, "She's got him!" At the final fraction of a second, Bruce rotated. His right foot pivoted, his hips turned. His left hand guided her shoulder, his right palm touched her upper back. Nothing more. No strike, no shove. Yet Diana's own momentum lifted her feet from the mat. Time seemed to freeze. The strongest Marine instructor on the base suddenly floated through the air. Not violently, not dramatically, simply, inevitably. She landed on one knee before catching herself with one hand. The entire gym froze. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. Captain Holay slowly looked up. Her breathing was heavy. Bruce stood exactly where he had been, completely balanced, completely relaxed. He extended one hand toward her, not as a victor celebrating, but as a teacher, inviting a student back to her feet. For several long seconds, she only stared at that hand. Then, without saying a word, she accepted it. The demonstration was no longer about proving who was stronger. For the first time that morning, Captain Diana Holay realized she had just met someone who understood combat on a level she had never imagined. And deep inside, she knew the real fight had not even begun. Captain Diana Holay remained on one knee for several long seconds. The entire training hall had become eerily quiet. Only moments earlier, every Marine in the room had expected Bruce Lee to be overwhelmed by the sheer size and power of the strongest female instructor on the base. Instead, no one had seen Bruce throw a single meaningful strike. Yet somehow, Diana had been the only one who touched the floor. She slowly stood without accepting anyone else's help. Her breathing was noticeably heavier now. A thin layer of sweat covered her forehead. Bruce looked exactly as he had when he entered the gym. Calm, relaxed, untouched. Colonel Harris stepped forward. "I think everyone has seen enough for one demonstration." Before anyone could move, Diana spoke. "No." Her voice echoed through the room. "I'm not finished." Every Marine looked toward her. There was no anger in her face anymore, only determination. She looked directly into Bruce's eyes. "You've been teaching." "You haven't been fighting," Bruce answered honestly. "I don't enjoy hurting people." "You think you could hurt me?" "I think neither of us came here for that." Diana slowly shook her head. "Then stop treating me like a student." The room became completely silent again. "I want your best." Bruce remained quiet. She continued, "I've spent my entire career proving that strength earns respect." She pointed toward the Marines surrounding them. "Every one of them believes I'm the strongest person in this building." She lowered her hand. "If that's wrong, I need to know." Bruce studied her expression carefully. For the first time that morning, he saw no pride, only sincerity. He gave a respectful nod. "Very well." The Marines instinctively stepped farther away from the mat. Everyone sensed the atmosphere changing. This was no longer a casual demonstration. Both fighters slowly removed their shoes. Bruce loosened his shoulders. He rolled his neck once. For the first time, he assumed a recognizable fighting stance. It was small, compact, balanced. The difference was almost invisible. Yet every experienced fighter in the room immediately felt it. One instructor whispered, "He changed." Another quietly answered, "I don't know how, but he did." Colonel Harris folded his arms. "Watch carefully." "You may never see timing like this again." Diana inhaled deeply. She closed her eyes for 1 second, then opened them. Every trace of arrogance had disappeared. Only focus remained. Bruce bowed. She returned the bow. The whistle sounded. Neither attacked immediately. This time Diana circled much more carefully. She wasn't chasing him anymore. She was studying him. Bruce matched every step. The distance between them never changed. Left, right, forward, backward. Each movement resembled a silent conversation. The Marines watched without speaking. Finally, Diana attacked. Not with overwhelming force, with patience. A probing jab. Bruce parried. A low kick. Bruce checked it with his shin. A spinning elbow. Bruce slipped outside its path. Now something remarkable happened. Bruce answered. Not with combinations. One strike. A lightning-fast finger jab stopped less than an inch from Diana's eyes. She froze. Had it landed, she never would have seen the next attack. Bruce withdrew instantly. No contact, no damage, only a lesson. The Marines gasped. "I didn't even see it. Was that his hand?" It looked like it disappeared. Diana's heartbeat quickened. She realized something terrifying. Bruce had opportunities to end the exchange and chose not to. That thought unsettled her more than any punch could have. She advanced again. This time she mixed feints into every movement. Bruce responded perfectly. Every fake, every angle, every change in rhythm. He seemed to recognize her intentions before she completed them. Frustration slowly returned. She suddenly launched a devastating spinning back kick. The attack carried incredible speed. Even Bruce acknowledged it. "Excellent!" He stepped just outside its path. As Diana turned to continue the combination, Bruce moved. For the first time, the Marines saw Bruce Lee attack at full speed. His body exploded forward. A palm strike stopped against Diana's chest. A back fist halted beside her jaw. A low kick touched the outside of her thigh. An elbow stopped beside her ribs. A straight punch hovered inches from her nose. Everything happened in less than 2 seconds. Bruce immediately stepped back. The hall remained frozen. Nobody understood what they had witnessed. One young Marine blinked repeatedly. Did he hit her?" An older sergeant quietly replied, "No. He showed her 5 openings." Diana stood perfectly still. She looked at Bruce, then slowly lowered her eyes toward the places where each strike had stopped. Chest, jaw, leg, ribs, face. Every target had been open. Every defense had failed. She hadn't noticed any of it. Bruce spoke gently. "You have tremendous power." She nodded silently. "You have excellent conditioning." Another nod. "You also commit completely once you attack." She finally answered, "That's how I've always fought." Bruce smiled kindly. "Against most opponents, that's enough." He paused. "But against someone who studies timing, it becomes predictable." Those words landed harder than any punch. For years, Everyone had praised Diana's aggression. No one had ever questioned it. Bruce wasn't insulting her. He was revealing something she had never seen. She exhaled slowly. "Teach me." The Marines exchanged surprised looks. Captain Holay had never asked anyone for instruction. Bruce nodded. "Attack me." She obeyed. Bruce gently redirected the punch. Again. She attacked. He redirected it differently. Again. She attacked harder. Again, again, again. For nearly 20 minutes, Bruce never threw a damaging strike. Instead, he explained movement through action. Every mistake Diana made became another lesson. You're using your shoulders first. Again. Your front foot tells me where you're going. Again. You tense your jaw before committing. Again. You breathe too loudly before your strongest attacks. Again. Little by little, her movements became smoother. Her balance improved. Her breathing slowed. The Marines surrounding them were completely captivated. Without realizing it, they had all begun learning alongside her. Bruce suddenly stopped. "Now, attack as if you truly intend to win." Diana nodded. This time everything felt different. She moved more patiently. She waited. She listened. She watched Bruce instead of herself. Her first combination flowed naturally. Bruce smiled. "Better." She attacked again. Bruce blocked. This time, she forced him to take a full step backward. Several Marines gasped. It was the first time all morning Bruce had willingly surrendered space. Colonel Harris smiled proudly. "She's learning." Bruce nodded approvingly. Very quickly. Encouraged, Diana increased the pace. Now both fighters moved almost too fast for the audience to follow. Hands blurred, feet slid effortlessly across the mat. Neither wasted movement. Neither showed panic. The exchange lasted nearly a minute without interruption. Finally, Bruce stepped inside. A gentle shoulder bump shifted Diana's balance. A wrist control redirected her momentum. One sweep of his foot, and she found herself lying flat on her back, not slammed, not thrown violently, simply placed there with flawless precision. Bruce immediately stepped away. He offered his hand once more. This time, Diana accepted it without hesitation. She smiled. Not because she had won, not because she had lost, but because, for the first time in her military career, she understood the difference between fighting with strength and mastering combat itself. Around them, the Marines erupted into thunderous applause. Yet none of them realized the day's greatest challenge was still waiting. Colonel Harris looked toward the entrance of the training hall as the doors slowly opened. Several senior officers entered, accompanied by members of an elite Marine hand-to-hand combat unit. Their commander looked directly at Bruce Lee, then at Captain Holay. A faint smile crossed his face. "So, is this the man everyone has been talking about?" Bruce quietly turned. He immediately recognized from their posture and expressions that these men had not come to watch. They had come to test him. And unlike the demonstration that had just ended, these Marines had no intention of holding back. The applause slowly faded as the heavy doors of the training hall swung open. Every Marine turned toward the entrance. 5 men stepped inside in perfect formation. Their uniforms were simple. No unnecessary decorations. No attempts to impress anyone. But the way they carried themselves immediately caught everyone's attention. These were instructors from the Marine Corps' elite close combat program, men who trained soldiers before they deployed overseas. Their commander, Major Richard Coleman, walked confidently toward Colonel Harris. "I heard you've brought in someone extraordinary." Colonel Harris smiled. "I didn't bring him here to prove anything." Major Coleman glanced at Bruce Lee. "Good. Then he won't mind another demonstration." Captain Diana Holay immediately understood where this was heading. "Major, he has already demonstrated enough." Coleman shook his head. "I watched the last 10 minutes through the observation window." His eyes remained fixed on Bruce. "I'd like to see what happens when someone doesn't fight alone." The room became silent. Bruce answered politely. "What do you have in mind?" The Major smiled slightly. "A controlled exercise. No striking to the face. No dangerous techniques." Bruce nodded. "Acceptable." The Major turned toward his instructors. "You know the rules." 3 Marines stepped forward. Each was an experienced combat instructor. Each outweighed Bruce by at least 50 pounds. Each had years of military fighting experience. Captain Holay frowned. "3?" The Major looked at her. "You wanted to know why he's here." "So did I." Bruce calmly removed his watch and placed it beside his training bag. He looked at the 3 Marines. Then he smiled. "Whenever you're ready." The whistle sounded. The Marines immediately spread into a triangle. Unlike Diana, they worked together. One circled left, another moved right. The third stayed directly ahead. Bruce slowly turned with them. His eyes never stopped moving, watching, calculating, listening. One Marine suddenly rushed forward. At the same instant, another attacked from Bruce's blind side. Gasps filled the room. Bruce pivoted. His body slipped between both attacks by inches. The 2 Marines nearly collided with each other. Bruce lightly touched one man's shoulder. The instructor stumbled directly into his teammate. The room erupted with surprised voices. He used one against the other. Before anyone finished speaking, the 3rd Marine charged from behind. Bruce never looked. Instead, he heard the footsteps. He shifted sideways. The Marine's tackle found nothing but empty air. His momentum carried him across the mat. Bruce gently guided his back with one hand. The instructor rolled safely before standing again. Captain Holay stared in disbelief. "He isn't stronger." "He's always somewhere else." Colonel Harris smiled. "Exactly." The pace increased dramatically. Now all 3 instructors attacked together. Punches, low kicks, grabs, sweeps, everything flowed continuously. Bruce moved like flowing water, never stopping, never freezing. Every attack created another opening. Every opening became another escape. The Marines surrounding the mat struggled to follow his movements. One corporal whispered, "I can't track him." Another answered, "I don't think we're supposed to." Major Coleman crossed his arms. His expression had changed completely. He expected skill. He hadn't expected efficiency on this level. One instructor finally managed to grab Bruce's wrist. A cheer almost erupted. Bruce smiled. He relaxed instead of resisting. His elbow rotated, his shoulder followed, his entire body turned as one unit. Within a heartbeat, the Marine who had grabbed him found himself kneeling on the mat with his own wrist gently controlled. Bruce released him immediately. "No pain?" The Marine looked surprised. "None." Bruce nodded. "Good." The exercise continued. Another instructor attempted a rear choke. Bruce lowered his center of gravity. One step, one turn, one shift of his hips. The Marine suddenly lost his balance and rolled harmlessly across the floor. Again. No strike, no injury, only flawless positioning. Captain Holay slowly smiled. She finally understood. Bruce never fought people. He fought momentum, time, distance, balance. The three instructors backed away to regroup. Sweat poured from their faces. Bruce's breathing remained calm. Major Coleman raised one hand. "Enough!" The whistle echoed through the hall. All movement stopped. For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then one of the instructors walked toward Bruce. He extended his hand. "I've never missed so many attacks in my life." Bruce shook his hand respectfully. "You attacked well." "I simply moved earlier than you expected." The instructor laughed. "I'll be thinking about this for a long time." The other two Marines also approached. Instead of competitors, they now looked like students. Questions began pouring out. "How did you know where I was going? How did you escape that grip? When did you see the tackle coming?" Bruce answered every question patiently. He demonstrated foot placement, body alignment, relaxation, timing. Soon the entire mat was surrounded by Marines trying the same movements. Captain Holay joined them. Bruce adjusted her stance slightly. "Relax your shoulders." She nodded. He moved her front foot 2 inches. "Better." He touched her elbow lightly. "Don't force it." She repeated the movement. This time it flowed naturally. Bruce smiled. "Excellent." She laughed quietly. "I've been doing it wrong for years." "You've been doing what worked," Bruce replied. "Today you learned something that works even better." Hours passed almost unnoticed. The Marines who had arrived expecting to witness a fight ended up attending one of the most memorable training sessions in Camp Pendleton's history. Even Major Coleman removed his jacket and asked Bruce to demonstrate several techniques personally. When the afternoon sun began shining through the gym windows, Colonel Harris finally called everyone together. The Marines formed neat rows. Bruce stood in front of them. No speech had been prepared. He simply looked across the room, at faces that had begun the morning laughing at him. Those same faces now looked back with complete respect. Bruce folded his hands behind his back. When people first meet each other, they usually notice height. They notice muscles. They notice appearance. He paused. But a fight is decided long before any punch is thrown. The Marines listened in complete silence. If your mind becomes angry, you become predictable. If your pride controls you, you stop learning. If your strength becomes your only answer, eventually someone stronger will appear. Captain Holay lowered her eyes. Those words described exactly who she had been that morning. Bruce continued, "Real confidence doesn't need to prove itself. It simply does its job." The room remained silent. Captain Holay stepped forward. She stopped in front of Bruce. Then, in front of every Marine in the building, she offered a respectful bow. "I judged you before I knew you. I mistook size for ability. I won't make that mistake again." Bruce returned the bow. "There was nothing to forgive. You gave me the opportunity to teach." The entire hall erupted into applause. This time it lasted much longer, not because someone had won, but because everyone had learned. As Bruce picked up his small sports bag and walked toward the exit, dozens of Marines instinctively stepped aside, creating a path for him. No one laughed now. No one whispered. Every Marine saluted as he passed. Bruce paused at the doorway and looked back one final time. Keep training, but never stop learning. With that, he quietly walked into the golden California sunset. Captain Diana Holay watched until he disappeared from sight. Years later, whenever new recruits entered her training hall, they often asked about the framed white T-shirt hanging on the wall. She always smiled before telling the same story. The smallest man who ever walked into this gym taught the strongest Marine here that true power isn't measured by muscle. It's measured by discipline, humility, and perfect timing. And from that day forward, every new Marine at Camp Pendleton learned the same lesson before beginning combat training. Never underestimate someone simply because they don't look dangerous. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one who has already mastered the fight before it even begins.